You're listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast, episode 17 with Subi Ghosh. Here we go.
You're dialed in to the Dealer Playbook Podcast, where it's all about winning auto dealer strategies that deliver proven results. And now your hosts, Robert Weissman and Michael Cirillo.
Hello, and thank you so much for listening into the Dealer Playbook. We appreciate you being here and tuning in and checking out all of the Dealer Playbook podcasts. This is episode 17. It's been a lot of fun sitting down with some of the biggest names in the automotive industry. The Dealer Playbook is all about delivering winning auto dealer strategies. You know, the things that you can really do, sink your teeth into today to make a difference in your own personal life, in your role at the dealership, and ultimately to help the dealership as well succeed. And, you know, that's the big part of this, winning auto dealer strategies that deliver real results. I'm here with my man, Robert Weissman. Robert, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing fantastic, Michael. I'm super excited for this episode of the Dealer Playbook.
There, I opened that one up. I felt like I'd been saying that way too much. I needed to hear it from you. So
I am pumped up and psyched up, everybody. Thanks for being here. You know, we hope that one of you out of all that we've been getting, Michael and I have been blown away with the support. So we just hope one person is taking something. If just one is taking something and putting it into action.
Yeah, and I mean that's a big thing. I feel like you listening in, you're here because you want to make big things happen for yourself, and that's really the objective of what we're doing here. The guest on the show today is somebody that we respect. She's so much fun, and she happens to be the very first of what we hope is many powerhouse female representatives of the automotive business. Today we're sitting down with Subi Ghosh, who's currently the Vice President of Marketing over at Dealer Authority. That's JD Rucker's gig that he's got going on, which is exploding and gaining up a ton of traction. We encourage you to check them out. But previous to joining Dealer Authority, Subi was the sales and e-commerce director at Joyce Kuhn's Honda Buick GMC, and she came into the business without previous experience. You'll hear her talk about how it was kind of by accident, but you know what? She put herself in a position where she actually absolutely thrived, and that's something that we're extremely passionate about, is not just surviving, thriving. So I think, Robert, you know, without further delay, let's just jump into this. We'll let Subi do her thing. You guys will all be incredibly impressed. Don't forget to check out the show notes as well, where we will link you up with Subi and give you her contact info and give you a recap of this episode.
Check it out.
All right, everybody, today is an extraordinary day. In fact, and I don't typically like to draw too much attention to this, but this is actually the first time that we've had a woman in the car business on the show. Yeah, we are here with Subi. Subi, thank you.
Yeah.
We've never. It was turning into, well, I said to Robert, this is turning into a man's show, and we can't have that. So we are so extremely delighted to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here with us, Subi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so you and I talk, you know, frequently about things that we're super passionate about, but we decided to put those on the shelf for the time being.
Yes.
Because we want to, you know, we want to talk to people today about, those listening in, about, you know, your experience inside the dealership and really what you did to flourish there and be, you know, as successful as you were and build the name for yourself that you have. For those of you that don't know Subi, she's the Vice President of Marketing at Dealer Authority. If you know JD Rucker, then you know Dealer Authority, and she is doing some extremely incredible things there. But previous to Dealer Authority, Subi she was the Sales and e-commerce director at Joyce Kuhn's Honda Buick GMC. And so we felt it just so extremely valuable to have her on. I mean, she's an encyclopedia of online knowledge. But what we wanted to talk about with you, Subi, was your experience inside the dealership to help other sales and e-commerce directors or internet directors or sales directors with the things that they can do to really kind of excel in their position, to help the dealership, to help themselves, to help their team. So, you know, the first question I had for you was, you had mentioned you were in that or in the dealership for 6 years. Starting out in the car business, you had mentioned it was by accident.
Yeah.
What kind of overwhelmed you, or what were some of the obstacles that you faced starting out in the industry or starting out in the dealership?
Well, I think from conversations that I've had with other internet automotive professionals, when I say by accident, it's something that a lot of people it resonates, because I don't know if we've given enough of a good reputation to what automotive jobs can be for people and how lucrative and honestly, it's just fun. It's fun what I do. And I just started out being an assistant for an internet manager, and I would just do my job and do it well. And I know that sounds like I'm, blowing myself up a little bit, but I think that's the difference. No, I don't mean it in that way. I just wanted to do the best that I possibly could. And when it came time for me to get a real job, quote unquote, I was finishing up my schoolwork and going into the field of, that I was studying, which ironically, I used my degree more than anybody that I graduated with, and in sociology and mental health. I use that in the dealership every single day. But realistically, I only knew what I knew from what I was taught. And what I was taught was make plans, be regimented, learn as much as you can, and learn to apply it. And that wasn't there. A lot of dealerships don't have that kind of structure. So the first thing that I did was apply the structure. I didn't know what I was doing at the time was helping me really make that department successful. I was just doing what I could to make it day by day. And that structure of templates and giving my team scripts on what to say, I was just doing it because it was easy and it was fast. But applying a structure where none exists can help so much. Little things like that. I made business plans and mission statements because that's what I was taught in college. I didn't know any differently. And my owner looked at me like I was crazy sometimes, but it helped me make my case of what we needed. I started pulling studies and facts from all the different forums. Those are kinds of things that I would present to them and then break it down. I call it hustling backwards. It's a term that I got from my sociology background, but it's breaking down any number that you want into numbers that the person you're presenting it is going to understand. So if I wanted a team to help me or an individual to be hired, I would take a number of leads, I would back it up into sales that obviously GMs and dealers want to know how many sales it's going to get and how much money it's going to make them. Those are terms that they understand. So I would take what I have and what I was accomplishing. And then I would take the number that we have and what we should be accomplishing and what's a reasonable number to get there. So if I knew that to get the best results, an individual shouldn't be really taking on more than 150 to 200 leads. And at, back then, 10% close was what we were using. I would show them the difference, and it started to build a case for me. So I went from being a one-man department to, by the time that I left my first dealership, I had 4 individuals answering the leads, and then I had 3 departments that they handed over to me. So it starts to grow from those little things that you can do to really show a more professional, structured.
Sure.
Yeah.
You said something that stood out to me. It reminded me of our recent conversation with Grant Cardone, and he talks a lot about training and how it has to happen in sequence. And you said something to me that really stood out. I'm sitting here taking notes. You talked about a business plan and a mission statement.
First off, Michael,
go for it.
Subi has been quite pleasant. Okay, there's no way you can say that anything about that reminded you of our conversation with Grant Cardone.
There it is, dropping the bomb. Well, you know what? Cardone was pleasant for me. He had something out for you.
Yeah. But hey, Subi, so you go back and it makes me think of something, and you're talking about going in for this position like this that's just, a car business position, but you're doing like so much of that. You said executing on things that were no brainers because of college, like doing research and
yeah.
You know what I mean, looking for scripts on the forums, learning what's working, across
well,
the
that's kind of
board
where I was
and
going
stuff.
with this, right?
And it's the thing is, it's like, how big of an issue do you think it is, really? This is kind of off topic, but of dealerships appealing to people like that? Like, why isn't there an 8-year-old saying, I want to be in the car business when I grow up?
Right. And
It's so there's a lot of glory in it. There's chest pounding. It appeals. There's a sex appeal to it. There really is, for both sides, for, anybody to really find a place.
yeah. And there's so many different kinds of roles. I mean, you give me a person with almost any personality and you can fit them into a different role in the dealership. I think as a culture, it starts from anybody. Everyone says that, the culture starts from just the top. And I would agree, if you want a culture to stick for a dealership, that you want it to come from the top. You want management to buy in. But it also starts with you. It starts with any individual. When I walked into my dealership, my first dealership, I didn't really have that kind of support. I didn't have, a blueprint of what I needed to do. And my blueprint was, believe it or not, Dealer Refresh and the forums. I learned everything from talking to people that were in my shoes and networking and just kind of piecing it together from different points of view and testing it out. But that applying that, kind of creating my own blueprint and applying it to what I was doing, just trial and error, really helped me get through it.
How crucial was your mission statement that you created to building the culture of your team?
Okay, so a lot of times when we talk about culture, I try to think back to what it was that I did uniquely, because I started an intern department because I didn't really have a budget in my first dealership. And so I started this internship, and it was a lot of work. I put in a lot of hours, but I also got a lot of hours in return. So I would spend an extra, 10 hours a week, because you have to coach interns a certain way and you have to, fill out reports and train them 70% of the time. But for 4 interns to come in, that's so many more hours that I was gaining. So I just put this internship together. I coached them on, menial tasks that would just take time, but I was also teaching them, writing job descriptions and things like that, writing descriptions for vehicles, and blog articles and things that would help with my SEO and things that would like listings and reviews and social media.
Okay, so this is good. That's good. So about interns, so they're taking care of so much of a lot of stuff that most dealers today. I'm gonna give, I'm gonna give a lot of credit right here, but that most dealers, I think they know that kind of stuff needs to be done. You know what I mean? But it's really getting the type of people to do that. So when putting together an internship, I'm talking about, you say it's a lot of work, and I get it, like working with the interns and getting them trained, getting them prepped, and all that. But what about like getting that kind of your dealership approved for that kind of program?
It's actually not as difficult as you would think, because every university has so many students looking for internships and not enough internships to pass around. So if you go to any university, community college, it really doesn't matter. You approach them and say, I have this internship. It's in digital marketing. It's in reputation management. It's in customer service. As long as you have at least somebody who's going to teach them how to do stuff, every single university's rules are different. So the one by me, they had to be learning something at least 30% of the time that they spend. So if they're in your dealership for 40 hours, 30% of that, they need to be actively engaging and learning something. They can't just do menial tasks the whole time. There are some that only have 10%. So when you look at that, you structure your goals of what that internship is going to be, what they're going to be working on. And in today's marketplace, realistically, with the amount of digital help that dealerships need, you're able to fill that time pretty quickly.
They're filled with those people in there, eager kids to be out there doing that instead of sitting in a classroom, right? Am I wrong? I mean,
and you get hands-on application of the latest things that they're learning in university too. You're not just getting what you learn and teaching to them, and hopefully they can figure it out. I really only had, out of the 12 or 15 interns that I worked with in my time at Basel, I only had one real issue with someone coming to work hungover that I had to fire an unpaid intern.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of sales floors are filled with people hungover. So a couple interns in the back. So look, I think that's a good, tactic right there, especially with school. We're in the midst of, if you're listening right now, this is summertime. We're, near the end of July. So schools are getting ready to come back in. Just takes maybe a phone call. And, it's probably be worth even the persistence of a couple phone calls if that's what it takes to get that done, because you got free help. And again, look, you could find, a future, star employee for your organization. You're going to get free help, and you're going to get, again, anything that they bring to the table too.
Exactly. And you get a lot of times now with what they've been given as they learn, right? We weren't born with laptops in our laps, learning all of the nooks and crannies that we spend hours and hours reading and studying to figure out. This is all stuff that comes natural to them. So if we put it in their hands and cultivate them and teach them, you come up with your next internet manager and your next customer service person or your social media person. A lot of times you can hire these kids and they are eager and they understand the pros and cons of working with you, and you're breaking down those barriers. We were talking about how do we get kids like that into dealerships. You create that culture where it's a fun place for them to be. Generation now is looking for a good work-life balance. I have this phrase that I stick to, and every time I find myself slipping, I say it to myself over and over again. And it's simple. Just because it's been done a certain way doesn't mean we have to continue doing it that way for automotive. I didn't know what I was doing, so I put things in place. If I look back on it and I talk to some of, my friends that I've made in the industry, they can't believe that I did something like that I've achieved something like that. And that wasn't my intention. I just wanted to stay afloat. So if it can be done when people don't know any better, I think sometimes we stand in our own way because it's been done this way. Why can't we have schedules that aren't 9 to 9s? Why can't we have a little bit more of an easier schedule for people? It just takes one person to think that differently and to put it in play and test it out.
When you embarked on this, though, so I just heard you say that you kind of didn't know really what way you wanted to go with it. Are we saying that, it's not necessarily important to have some sort of an onboarding process for these interns or some sort of a curriculum of what you want to cover with them? Or is it just, hey, let's get into this. We're going to learn together as we go?
Yeah. So when I first created it, I had kind of like a top 10 of what I'm going to be teaching them and what they're going to be working on. And that top 10 was very simple. Reputation management, social media, SEO, websites, customer relations. You list out the things that are your weaknesses, and then you cultivate your internship around that. You teach them that 10%, and believe me when I say you learn about 50% from them. So it doesn't have to be so defined. It really, the time to set it up and managing it, it's not as complicated as it seems. 2 emails. I didn't send more than 2 emails to any of the universities I wanted to pair with before I got an internship set up.
Cool.
Yeah, that's free labor, and then that you're going to learn from too. Well, it's not technically free because there's the time that's invested by somebody that's getting paid, that's training them. But it's a fair exchange.
So there's 2 different types of internships. There's paid and unpaid. Unpaid, they get paid in credit. And I actually prefer the unpaid because they have something to lose by not learning. They have to write a paper at the end of their internship as to what they learned and what they participated in and how they picked up new techniques. And when you have someone that's more engaged in that way, and I'm not saying that you want to be cheap about it. So for one of my intern sections, what we did is with the unpaid interns, we did like a scholarship at the end. It's less really, when you do the math, it's way less than you would be spending on a full-time employee, but it gives them something to work towards because they're getting credit for it and you're helping the community.
Cool. When, just to kind of keep it moving.
Sure.
When did it kind of click for you and you said, okay, something big is happening here? What were kind of the indicators for you that you were onto something that was working well?
So, like I said, I was on the forums. Dealer Refresh was my Bible back then because I didn't really network. I'm sure many dealers will feel like they're alone. And for me to network with peers that were going through the same thing was exceptionally important because I didn't have coworkers. I had salespeople and I had managers that didn't understand what I was doing. And I had a dealer that, really supported me, but really had no clue if I was working out at all. So networking with my peers, bouncing ideas off of them, and then tracking it. So I learned a little bit about SEO. I'm no expert on SEO, but I learned the basics of what I really need to do, and then I tested it, and then I tracked everything. And a dealership that really genuinely was good people, that was doing great business, they weren't getting visibility. And just a few tweaks here and there within a few weeks, we started showing up on the first page of Google. And that was a huge win for me because that's something verifiable that my sales manager and my dealer could see and they can taste it. It's tangible to them. And once I started doing that, I started testing other things in other avenues. And honestly, I was in the industry for about 3 years, just networking here and there before I really felt like, as a dealer, I could make a difference. I could really make a difference because I had other peers reaching out to me wanting to hear my voice on things. So that to me was that click that my peers that I've been networking with were coming to me, asking me for advice because I was kind of trying to pay it forward. I just kind of fell in love with it along the way.
Would you suggest that, ultimately, if somebody who's in your position, with regards to what we're talking about, they need to have the support of the dealer principal or general manager so that, I guess what I'm getting at is, were you afraid of testing things because they might fail? Or was it more like, no, you know what, we realize we have to grow, and the only way we're going to grow is by trying new things?
I say give them hell. I think there are big things that you need to get their approval on, but I would present maybe 10 ideas. This is something I learned from psychology. So you sandwich in a bunch of different ideas that you want to try. And when you have that many ideas, they find it very difficult to shoot down all of them. So you take one or two that they're okay with and you test it. A lot of the things I did was out of pocket just to kind of see what I could do. I tried Facebook advertising when it was brand spanking new, just to see where it would go. And then I saw this benefit from putting in $20, $30, and I would take that to them. And then they would reimburse me and then give me a budget for it. I think you have to take some chances to really succeed at anything. If you just do what you're told, you're not really thinking outside the box. And I am someone who likes to find what it is that I need to do and learn it completely. I think in this industry sometimes there's so much information out there and there's so many different opinions on what works and what doesn't work. And I think we're kind of hurting ourselves if we just go by one person's opinion. So reading into all of it, learning as much as you can, and then kind of testing little things on your own that maybe your dealer's not paying attention to or doesn't think that it's important. Put in the time that they require of you, but also put in time to kind of test things for yourself and challenge yourself. I think that's the exciting stuff. I think that's when you get really into it and start to make a name for yourself in the dealership that you're in. One of the things, if I can say something to dealers, is don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something. If they don't understand it, then keep fighting to prove them wrong, but do it in ways that are verifiable and track it. And eventually you'll turn them. You'll turn every single one of them. When I left my first dealership, they didn't want me to leave, but the quote that really kind of clicked for me that I needed to move on was that I felt like I wasn't growing anymore. Here's my plan for next year. What can I get for next year? And my dealer, I kid you not, looked me in the eyes and said, I love what you're doing. Everything's perfect, but let's just wait for the internet to go away. Now, I don't know if he was 100% serious or not, but I just knew in that moment that I wasn't challenging myself. And the moment you feel that way, loyalty is something that we fight in automotive all the time. But when you feel like you're not providing for your dealer what you want to, it's okay to make a move, because you're hurting yourself, you're hurting your career, and you're hurting the dealership. And it's not fair on any front.
You know, you said something too that resonates with me. I think a lot of the time we fail to remember that, you know, dealerships are small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
And I think of my own business and our own journey just growing the business. There were so many times, like you said, where we just had to try things to see how it would work for us in the market we're in the, you know, with the consumer climate the way it is, and not be afraid to see certain things flop, but also be prepared to see certain things explode for us. And I think somewhere along the way, you know, I think a lot of dealerships are in the position where they, you know, for lack of better words, are maybe fearful of spending money on the unknown. But I think, like you said, they have to take chances. And in so doing, I think as long as the mentality is that you are going to take chances, knowing that those chances are there to help progress the business and to help progress the individuals that work there, that it is really a win-win. It's not just the loss of money or the gaining of money. It's building this atmosphere where people can grow, where your business can grow in the community, where you can grow as an individual. And so thank you for saying that, because that's something that resonates with me. But yeah, the internet's not going anywhere. We should send a memo.
You know, when I go back to visit, we have some pretty comical conversations about, you know, they've all come back to me. They all, every place that I've left thus far, I've been really blessed where I still have good relationships with every single place. And they understand my vision now, sometimes in retrospect, but it's nice to be able to have those conversations, because sometimes it does take time for them to see it, because this is my view on it. We can't blame the sales managers who were taught by the sales managers before them, because that is what they were taught. That is what they know. So I take it upon myself to teach them something different, because I'm not always going to be right, but I might be able to present a case to them that speaks to them in something that, in a way that they're going to understand. So,
and that's the fun thing about business.
Yeah.
Trying it, just try it. And doing business online, I mean, even makes the case easier to present, because everything can be tracked and measured.
Yeah. And for all my dealer friends that ask me, you know, how do I get the buy-in? How do I get the authority that you had? I didn't start with that. It took me a long time to be able to get that. And it really just, there's two things.
Well, and you were talking about spending your own money. How many people are willing to spend their own money to go out on a limb and do that to present the case?
Well, there's two things that I live by. One is learn absolutely as much as you can about your role and everything that role entails. Because a lot of times the people in the dealership don't know how to give you direction, because they don't understand it. They don't understand the internet. They don't understand pay-per-click. They don't understand SEO. They don't understand the nitty-gritty details about the website. They just know it's important, but they don't know everything about it. And it's your job that, if it's on your job description, learn everything. Don't be a surface scratcher. Don't hoard responsibilities and make them come to you for things. Instead, be an authority on it, so they need to come to you. You don't have to hoard I feel
hoard responsibilities. I'm loving that.
It happens. I'm sure you've been around a manager or two that tries to keep everything so secret that it makes them relevant and it makes them needed by the dealership. But in fact, it makes them shady and people don't trust them. So instead, make yourself important and needed by the dealership by really being an authority and understanding it and challenging them. And the other thing, so the second thing is take what's not yours. Sometimes they don't understand it. Sometimes they don't know how to. I've been told no for so many things. And what I did was I would take departments. I started out being an internet assistant, and then the internet managers kind of stopped showing up to work because I was doing his job and mine. So I became an internet manager just by luck of the draw. And then I took reputation management and I took social media. It wasn't something that I asked and got turned down. It was, this is part of my job now and this is what I'm doing. And I felt like if more people just took and started assuming responsibility instead of fearing the responsibility, then I think we'd all be in a better place.
I love that. Feel the responsibility, don't fear the responsibility.
Hey, Subi, speaking of like always learning and always never stop learning.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Since you have learned to shoot dice in the craps in a casino, how much money have you won?
I will never forget my time with you guys because I am now up probably about $1,700 or $1,800, and that is me being exceptionally cautious. So if I was a much bigger gambler, like some of the big ballers we were around, I probably would be up far more than that.
I remember showing you guys on that empty table, and then it was just on.
Well, you were showing me, and I'm standing here going, I'm watching a bunch of people lose money.
We were sitting there. We were with, remember, Paul Sansone Jr. and his wife, Mrs. Sansone. We were yelling at him.
Yes.
That was the best night.
Sansone is my new favorite person in the world.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay,
so just to kind of wrap this up, there's 2 action items there. That I'm picking up from you that I think sum up the reason why you excelled in the way that you did and the reason why you continue to excel. And it's been so much fun getting to know you and watching what you guys are accomplishing in your new position there at Dealer Authority. But it's that no matter what you do, not speaking of you now, but speaking of somebody who feels like they might be in the same position of not knowing where to get started or whatever, first thing that you can do is learn your role like a crazy, raging fanatic. Learn as much as you can. I talk about this a lot too. It's like, hey, learn as much as you possibly can. That way, if delegation comes into play, you can hold somebody accountable and or do the work yourself. And I love the second thing that you said about taking what's not yours and feeling the responsibility, not fearing the responsibility. In other words, don't let it debilitate you. Let it enhance your ability to take action.
Yeah. Because a lot of times dealer staff come up to me and they ask me, how do I create a name for myself? And I feel like my gut reaction is try not to create a name for yourself. If you're trying, then you might just try a little too hard. But if you just focus on doing your job as best as you can and then sharing that information, people will want to do what you're doing and want to see what you're doing. And I don't think that I'm an authority on anything, really. All I know is what I did, and I hope to share that. And, I tell every dealer, and I'll say the same for anybody listening, feel free to call me or tweet me or email me. I like passing on what I've learned from the amazing people that passed it on to me before. I started out just a girl trying to figure it out, and really amazing people like Joe Webb and Bill Playford and Ralph Paglia and Jim Ziegler, all these people that I networked with, just answered questions for me and pointed me in directions. And I gathered all that and hoarded the information, and thank God I made something for myself.
Sounds great. So you mentioned that. How can the listeners get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you? Email, Twitter? Email
me, subi@dealerauthority.com. That's SUBI @dealerauthority.com, or Twitter @Subi101, or Facebook me, Subi Ghosh. I think I'm the only one in the automotive industry. So, just add me and send me a question, and I'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Subi, thank you so much. We love and respect you, and glad to be associated with you. And listen, for those of you listening, absolutely check out Subi and the work she's doing over at Dealer Authority. And you know what? We're going to cut it off there. There were so many power nuggets and bombs in there that we don't want people's brains oozing out of their ears listening to this. So thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
I hope
Thanks, Sue.
sound like an idiot.
No, you don't.
No.
You sound like a rock star.
Yep.
Thank you.
And just like that, everybody, that was our friend Subi, again, from Dealer Authority. Check them out, dealerauthority.com. Friend of ours, also JD Rucker's, as Michael said, gig. Get over there and check them out. Michael, as expected, I always, it's always good to converse with Subi. And I thought that it was another great session in the can. What about you?
Yeah, I think I love when there are clear, concise action items that come out of this, and she didn't fail to deliver. I mean, just saying, she had some actually real cool word tracks that I wrote down here in my notes. Like, don't, what did she say? She said, don't fear responsibility, feel the responsibility. And I like the way that's positioned because it kind of depicts like, hey, take action. Don't be debilitated. Take action. Don't be fearful to take action. So I really enjoyed that. And just her reaffirming. I mean, when you go back and you listen to other episodes of the Dealer Playbook, you're going to hear a consistent theme, and it really has to do with education. It's like, hey, learn as much as you possibly can. Be a fanatic about learning everything you can about your position, about the dealership, about the different departments, so that you can excel. There's no instance that I can think of, or no indication that somebody that lacks in learning will be able to dominate or achieve their personal definition of success.
And she says it just takes one to start that kind of culture within a dealership. So maybe you will be that one to make it, and that it's pushed upon the people that education is key, because that's believe it or not, it's actually kind of like an easy path to success is just learn.
Right.
It's not backbreaking. It's rewarding beyond beliefs. All right, Michael, another one down, man. Great job. I'm having such a blast doing these. Why don't you get to the point quicker than me? Tell them where to find everything they need regarding this podcast.
Yeah, so check it out. You want to visit www.thedealerplaybook.com. That's where the show notes will be, but there's so many resources there. If you go back and look at past episodes as well, you're going to see links to books, to be able to connect with best-selling authors, social media experts, internationally recognized sales experts. So absolutely go check out thedealerplaybook.com and do us a favor. Don't forget to subscribe. You'll see a box on the website where you can put in your email address, where you'll get the latest episodes delivered automatically to your inbox. That's right. I said auto-magically.
Magically.
That's
Love
right.
it.
Right to your inbox, so you can keep up with everything that's going on. We are delivering some of the best information in the car business to you every single week. So we'd absolutely love for you to be a part of it. Check it out. And don't forget to check out Subi, www.dealerauthority.com, or on Twitter, Subi101.
101.
There it is. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next time.
See you in a bit.